Hey Raiders, we've got another pretty long one today, but I'm going to put my trust in Katie, and hopefully this should be a pretty good one. But like always, it's going to be a surprise. You ready to get
Yes.
started?
Yes, I am.
Well, we've got Greedy Monk kept secretly stealing the party's loot. The DM went along with it for a long time. Alright, so this was a long time ago. It
Hmm.
still kind of baffles me, and I'm not 100% sure about the specifics of how the monk managed to pull this off. I've tried to explain this as best as I could. Part 1, the game's information.
Oh.
It was an online game of D&D 5e, played primarily through voice chat. I was invited to the game by an online friend who was friends with the DM. The rest of the party was filled up by players who responded to the DM's game ad. This was also a higher level campaign. I think we started at about level 8, and the DM was generous with XP. I feel like high level campaigns start at 10. 8's
Eh.
starting to get up there. But then again, we've been running at level 20 for
Yeah,
months
I
now,
was like,
so.
level 20 over here.
Part 2, the monk. The player was playing a tabaxi monk. He was a kind of he was kind of a douche and also the type of min-maxer who would keep talking about how awesomely his character is designed, how we can't even compare, and would lord it over us from time to time. Still, his douchey tendencies were tolerable, or so we thought.
Oh.
For the longest time, the DM knew better. Why do I feel like I'm going to get a message from Bobby saying that this sounds like him to himself? And I'm like, you're not the douchey player, but you do min-max.
He does, but he doesn't. Yeah, he's not douchey.
Monks also had many thief-type skills and kept bragging about how he's so fast that no one could catch him. He always insisted on going everywhere first to scout and sometimes just rushed into danger with the rest of the party having to catch up to him.
Yikes.
Just don't do that, or at least
Yeah.
talk to your party about it ahead of time. Especially if you're the most broken one, let other people have fun too.
Oh, God.
A few times this got him into trouble. We had to save him and always whined that he shouldn't have been able to get out of it by himself whenever that happened. Oh,
Wait.
always whined that he should have been able to
Oh.
get out of it by himself whenever that happened.
Okay. I thought they were saying like.
Yeah, so he's
Yeah.
always whining about not being able to get out of it himself.
Oh, okay.
That's
But
dumb.
like, yeah, I was like, but like that doesn't happen like that.
Yeah, maybe don't run into
Yeah.
an entire group or a big enemy encounter by yourself.
Right.
Why am I not the hero, Dungeon Master? It's my story, right? Isn't this all centered around me? It's not a group. It's not a group game.
Apparently.
Yeah,
Apparently not to this person.
no, no. When we were in town or any kind of civilization, he'd also sometimes go off on his own. We didn't think much of it. The DM occasionally role-played separate scenes for each player character whenever there was need for it, and the rest of our characters also sometimes went on their own errands. Monk's character was also the typical insufferable lone wolf, so none of us really wanted to roleplay any more than necessary, and thus didn't inquire further.
Wait, so that does that mean like that he was practically like fuck you guys all the time?
Yeah, yeah,
Oh
and they're just like,
God.
we're not really wanting to play with you anyways, so yeah, go off and do your own thing. That
Of
sounds great.
course. Yeah.
That's not a good start. And of course, part 3 is Trouble is Brewing.
Okay, here we go.
The trouble began when the DM seemingly began to be very stingy with loot. It has steadily been growing worse over the course of a few sessions. Soon enough, we'd fight through a whole dungeon and see that about half the treasure chests and such would be only half full or even completely empty, as if someone pilfered them.
Oh my God.
There were also no magical items found by us for several sessions. Before that, we'd find at least one per session, even if a small one that was mostly for flavor. It was a very high magic setting. Good, cloaks of billowing for everybody. I thought the DM simply decided to be a lot more strict with loot, so I didn't say anything. At one point, we were fitting, or we were fitting. At one point, we were fighting an undead warlord who stole the ancestral sword of my character's family. But when we got through his castle into the treasury, the sword wasn't there. And again, half the treasure chests were empty. I thought it was simply a plot hook, and the DM will follow back on the sword's real whereabouts later. So despite the initial disappointment, I didn't give it much thought. That's too... You see, the title, we've got the foreshadowing here, but from that player's perspective, that just sucks. You're trying to give the dungeon master the benefit of the doubt, and it's gonna just blow up in your face.
Also, that kind of really sucks that they barely find any loot now, like especially going through these dungeons. At least one thing. Come on.
Yeah. The next session, we were supposed to go to some forgotten temple and retrieve some artifact from there. We went inside, and as usual, Monk went first to scout. There were no enemies inside, and as soon as we set out to follow the super fast Monk, the DM announced to us that we hear the monk screaming in pain. The monk seemed confused by this, and as soon as we got inside the room that the monk was in, the DM narrated that we can see a large statue of the goddess whose temple it is. Underneath it is a large, ornate chest, and there are some runic letters on the chest. And in front of said chest was the monk, now turned into a golden statue.
Oh no.
The monk was furious, started an argument with the DM, and it got heated. They eventually took it to a private chat, and unsurprisingly, Monk was out of the game not long after. I was just mostly confused by what had just happened. Part 4. The DM's reveal.
Oh god.
The DM then explained to us that what was written on the chest was a warning that only those blessed by the goddess can open said chest, and anyone else will be cursed. He also told us that the monk was apparently stealing from the party for the longest time, in the sense that he was looting treasure from the dungeon whenever he went ahead and kept some of it for himself without telling the rest of us.
What? How does that...
What a douche, huh, Serenity?
That's terrible.
That is just no, don't do that. Would you want that to be happening to you in real life?
Also, that's your party. Like, you're supposed to be, like, working with them to get the treasure. Like, why? No.
That's insane.
I hate that.
At first, it was apparently small stuff, like some gold pieces here and there, or an item that looked interesting. He'd then present the rest of the treasure chest's contents to the party, while keeping his hidden stash in the several bags of holding he had.
Jeez, several? Oh, God.
We were all allowed to spend starting gold on magical items with price based on their rarity. So that's how he had several bags of holding.
Oh, I was like, yeah, because I was like, wait a second.
Sometimes he'd apparently even lock the treasure chest after he took what he wanted from it to make it look like he just discovered it.
What?
I can see, like, I can already kind of feel like I'm seeing the monk's perspective, thinking that he's just like, he's being a cool, sly, badass. One, you should be a rogue instead of a monk then. But he's just min-maxing that much that he decided to be a stealth monk build, which is just, you're such a dick. Think about other people.
Yeah, I really don't like the way that this person decided to play their character as far as, like, doing that. And
yeah, he probably thinks he's so cool. Just absolute hot stuff. He'd communicate these secret actions with the DM through direct messages, and for the longest time the DM kept indulging him. Said DM was very into the simulationist approach. He said he didn't want to limit our actions too much and just wanted to make sure they have realistic consequences. That's the best way I can explain why the DM kept up with it for as long as he did. I don't really understand why myself. I feel like if I'm going to allow that as a dungeon master, you should be trying to input more ways for your players to catch it happening. Like, I would ask you guys to make like different kind of observation checks all the time. If
right, to see if we catch him or not. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. Or just insight checks to see if it seems like he's lying.
Right.
Like you reach this locked chest. Give me an insight check to see if it feels like it's been re-locked recently.
Okay, see if it was like that, maybe. But like not what they're playing with.
Yeah. The DM seemed to hate the monk by that point. He kept ranting about him and how insufferable he was, and by that point we all agreed. Apparently, during their secret conversations, the monk kept arguing with the DM about what he's able to do without the rest of the party knowing or not. With notable quotes such as, "It's not fair, I have so much speed that I should be able to loot the whole corridor before they even get there."
What? That's...
Fuck you, bro!
That's literally... I feel like that'd be impossible.
Yeah! That takes time. Just because you can run fast doesn't mean you can search fast. Yeah. You can't search it that fast, Serenity. You can't do it. You can't do it. No. Mwah. We got to see what was inside those bags of holding he carried, and there were still several magic items in there.
Oh my god.
One of said items being the ancestral sword of my family's character.
They stole that?
Oh my gosh.
Oh my goodness, dude.
Yes, he stole that one too.
Jeez.
The DM wanted to teach Monk a lesson, and that trap chest that turned him into a golden statue was meant to be it. Per what the DM told us, it wasn't meant to be permanent. The goddess whose temple he wanted to steal from would have turned him back after a few hours and give him a chance to seek redemption somehow. But the monk left the game, so it was turned into a permanent thing. That is so me. It's like, okay, you want to get upset? I guess you're always gold.
Yep.
Part 5, the conclusion.
Oh.
The rest of us were not that surprised, as the monk seemed to be the kind of guy to do a thing like this. The monk was also particularly insufferable that last few sessions prior, and we were overall just glad he was gone from the game, and were happy to continue without him.
Oh my goodness.
And the game did improve afterwards. That whole session did leave a bitter taste in my mind, though. Mostly in hindsight, knowing that the DM knew about that for so long and indulged him for so long without telling us about it. I'm not even sure how exactly he managed to keep it secret from the rest of the party. And the monk wasn't the only one who had his secret plot line. Oh no.
What?
I remember that the sorcerer was heir to some kingdom which he kept secret from us, and was using the party to get strong and rich enough to help him win his throne back from the usurper. But as far as I know, he wasn't stealing from the party, nor acting against us in any other way, unlike the monk. I don't want to make it seem like I'm criticizing the DM too much, as he was great otherwise, but I don't think this was well handled. I wish he just had a chat with him to cut this sort of behavior sometime early on, and booted him out of the game if he continued doing it. Yeah, but when you've got a hard time confrontation, which it sounds like this DM probably had, it can be tough to do that. And maybe he was continuing to hope it was just going to work out?
Well, maybe he
the
thought...
theft?
Yeah, I mean, maybe he thought that the monk wasn't going to go so hard about it. You know what I mean? Like, start.
Yeah, but I mean, once he's taken the magic items, especially ones that you have planned for your other
Yeah,
players.
I know, but I just mean like maybe that's why he didn't do it. Like, have that conversation earlier on.
That's crazy.
But I don't like. Yeah, no, I completely think the DM totally took a wrong turn with this.
Well, I completely agree with that. And we've got some edits, so
Oh,
let's see
okay,
what
okay,
context gets added to the story.
okay.
To make something clear, we did ask questions in character when it seemed relevant. Okay, good. I was curious about this.
Oh.
Tried to investigate a bit to see if there was something fishy going on, mainly towards the end, but didn't learn much. So we moved on. Our party wasn't that good at the relevant skills except the monk, which is why we didn't
Oh.
really protest when he always wanted to scout.
Oh, that's
Ah!
why. That's completely why.
Our rolls sucked, so we couldn't catch the monk in the
Yeah.
action. Crap.
Yeah.
When it came to that castle treasury and the missing sword, we did try to investigate, but there wasn't any real clues left there. At least none that the DM let us find. So we ended up assuming that the sword was somehow stolen from there years ago for all we knew.
Mm.
We had no real leads to go follow regarding it, so put it on a back burner and focused on something else, figuring that a lead might present itself in the future.
I mean, that's so irritating, but I also get why they would feel that way of like, just like, okay, we're just going to move on because, like,
Yeah,
what else can
but
you really do?
in my opinion, as a dungeon master, there's only two ways to handle your players getting the completely wrong idea. If they are going way out of left field, you either need to just break the fourth wall for a second, if everybody's cool with that, and just be like, hey, you guys are not on the right track right now, just so you know. How do we want to kind of proceed? Maybe you guys should keep investigating, talk with them about it a little bit. Or if you're, the best kind of dungeon master out there, then do just plan actually on whatever they beeline to, figure out how to make that actually be the plot hook
Oh.
and get them back on track. But it does not sound like this dungeon master was doing that. I feel like he just let the monk just steal the stuff, and that was going to be that, which is messed
Yeah,
up.
I was gonna say obviously that came to that point because clearly nothing was being like done about it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like,
that was wild.
there was no twist in the story to make it like, hey, maybe they find out or they
Yeah.
whatever. But
And we all had side RP. That wasn't anything unusual. Monk had more of it, again, not strange since he kept acting like the lone wolf, and if we didn't feel obligated to let him stay for out-of-game reasons, our characters probably wouldn't let him remain part of our group, as he was just generally shady. I feel that part of the issues was a difference of expectations between us and the DM. Yeah, that is a
yeah,
constant downfall for most games. There was a lot more going on in the game besides the monks stealing some of our loot. This resulted in us being much more interested in different things and focusing on them rather than the mystery of some empty treasure chests and missing loot. If it continued, then we'd likely start paying more attention to it. But after Monk went overboard with this, it didn't last long enough for us to make this our priority. DM was fond of sprawling dungeons with multiple routes. Monsters, enemies would be scattered all about, patrolling or just living whatever life they had, and the prospective treasure could be anywhere. It wasn't just treasure chests, it could be coffins or urns or whatever made sense, too. So there was enough for the monk to grab if he explored the side passages and stuff. The strange thing is that I don't even remember the monk being split from our group that much. Like, we'd finish a combat encounter, then loot whatever the enemies had on them, Monk generally only looted enemies that seemed like they are important, could have some cool loot stuff. Or engage in some post-battle roleplay and such. Meanwhile, Monk would leave to scout as soon as the battle was over and rejoin us soon after, telling us what he found. I think that DM was kind of lenient with him and let him accomplish more than he should be able to. Probably because Monk kept whining whenever something didn't go his way. By the time the golden statue incident happened, the DM seemed to dislike him even more than the rest of us.
Oof. I just feel like at that point, you should evaluate how you're playing your game.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, or at least enforcing, like, certain rules, or...
It sounds like it's a good thing that player was kicked out.
Yeah, but it is a good thing they... Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but definitely, I think you're right. Establishing, like, more clear rules and setting your expectations as a dungeon master so everybody clearly understands what they're getting into is really important.
Yeah, I agree.
That is definitely another, like, worst kind of player story. So I want to hear from you guys if you've ever had a problem player stealing a bunch of your loot. I don't think anybody in our groups have ever done that with you guys.
No, I've never had literally anybody in any of those campaigns, like, steal anything from either of us. You know what I mean?
I have to say, if somebody in my game was trying to steal loot, I think I'd shut you down pretty quick. I'd be like, no, you're not getting to steal the loot. Or I'm asking everybody else, hey guys, how does everybody feel about having a player in the party be a loot thief? If you all hate this and can't stand it, I'm not going to let it happen, because this is a group game where I care about everybody being happy.
Yeah, I agree with that, though, because it doesn't make it fun if you don't like it, you know?
Yeah, because if you're in a clear-cut game, I could see where this would be okay. If you're in a clear-cut game, you know, like the sorcerer who secretly was a prince of another land, you know, if everybody's got, like, their own core secret, and you all, like, understand ahead of time, like, hey, you guys are going to be, like, poking each other in the back, stabbing each other a little bit, but that's because that's the kind of game that this is. Do you want to get in on that? Do you think that that's going to be kind of fun? Because it's going to be different.
Right.
And to me, that sounds like a really awesome game. But then everybody knows that that kind of stuff's going to be happening.
Yeah, it's, like you said, expectations of what the game's going to be, so...
Definitely, though, please comment down below your thoughts on this story. And I desperately want to know your guys' craziest loot theft stories, because I need to know if this has been happening to other people. Because I've heard of it. We've just never had it happen to us.
Yeah, I was like, I haven't yet, so...
Strandy, are you coming to tell goodbye to everybody? Are you going to sign us off? Come here. Yeah?
Yeah, she's ready.
She's ready to sign us off. Here we go. Alrighty, Raiders. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to lick that like button and subscribe. Woo!